Okay guys, now let's implement the front-end part of our application. As you can see, we have another folder in here. It's client. So I'm gonna open my terminal, and in here I need to navigate to the client folder. Okay. Now we need to use Vite to install our React application. So I'm gonna open the browser, and inside here I need to look for Vite for React.js. In here, just copy this one and paste that inside your terminal. You need to add this // so your React app should be installed inside this directory. Now you need to choose your app. So I'm gonna choose React and then JavaScript. Now we have the React app, but we need to install that. So I'm gonna write npm install here. Okay, so now let's install our Tailwind CSS. So I head back to the browser and look for Tailwind CSS. I'm gonna copy this code here, paste that in the terminal. Okay, now you can see we have two more files here, one for tailwind.config.js and the other one is push.css. Okay. Now we need to change this content with a new text. So I'm gonna copy this one and paste it here. Okay, one more thing that I need to add is this code inside this index.css, and I'm gonna get rid of this app.css because we don't need that. And finally I'm gonna delete every code inside app.jsx, remove this all from here, and change this function to be an arrow function. Okay, I'm gonna write here hello world. Okay guys, so before we start running this application, we need to install a few dependencies to our app. So I'm gonna open the terminal, and in here we need to write npm install react router DOM. It's gonna help us for routing our application. React icons, we will get icons from here. Axios will help us fetch data from the backend. And React query, we will combine this library with Axios to fetch data from our API. Now let's run this application using npm run deep. Click this link here. You can see that the hello world is printed in the browser. Now let's check if our Tailwind CSS is working or not. Okay, so inside this index.css, I'm gonna target all the elements. So in vanilla CSS, you could write like this, margin 0, padding 0. But from now on, we are gonna use this @apply keyword, which is coming from Tailwind CSS. And I'm gonna write here m0, margin 0, padding 0, and box to be border. It means that box sizing to be border box. Okay. Now I'm gonna write a class name inside this heading 1, text read 400. As you can see, our text color is changed. It means that the Tailwind CSS has been successfully installed to our application. Okay. Now inside this search, I'm gonna make a new folder called components. And inside here, we need to have a file called contacts.jsx, so it will hold our contacts. Okay. Now I'm gonna generate the React code here. If you don't know how to generate this type of code, you just open the extension part, and inside here you need to look for ES7 plus React Redux React Native snippets. So using this extension, you will be able to generate React code. Okay. Okay, now I need to import this component inside app.jsx. Okay. I'm gonna write contacts, and you can see that the contacts has been printed inside the browser. Alright. Okay, now we need to have some demo data to style our application, and later on we will get the data from the database and from our backend API. Okay, we have an array of data, so we need to map through all of them down here. Okay, so first of all, we need to get rid of this text, and we need to have a title here, contact application, and then we need to have a div down here, and inside here we need to map through all the data. Okay, and we need to render that inside another component, and I'm gonna call that contact and set this contact to that component. And because we use map here, we need to add key. Okay, now let's make that component here, and we need to import that component inside this contacts. Now you can see that we have multiple contact text here that represents our cards. Okay, now let's style this. I'm gonna give a class name to this div. The width is gonna be 80%. MX auto. Margin Y is gonna be 3 rem. Border 2. Border blue 100. Shadow MD. Shadow gray 400. Rounded LG. Okay, now we have this border radius, shadow, and border color. Alright, for this heading one, we need to have a padding of 6. Text center, flex 1. Text to Excel. Font bold, text gray 700. Okay, now our heading is looking good. So for this div, we need to write padding 4. For the large screen, padding is gonna be 7. Flex, item center, flex wrap, gap 5. Width is gonna be 95%. MX auto. Okay, now they are beside each other, so flex wrap will help us make it responsive. Okay, now I need to open the contact component here, and inside here we need to get that contact that we just sent to this component, and in here we need to destructure our properties from this object. So I just go back to the contacts, and I need to copy all these properties from here. I'm gonna write here const curly braces, and I'm gonna paste all of these properties here. Make sure to add commas, and they are all coming from contact. It means that we have destructured our object here. Okay, now down here we need to delete this contact, and at first we need to render the image. The source is gonna be image, and alt is going to be contact image. Down here we need to have a div. Okay, and we need to have a paragraph here. The value is gonna be full name. I need to copy and paste them for multiple times, and change this one to be email, this one to be phone number, and we need to have one more for the birthday. Okay, and we need to write a text beside each of them, so we need to specify what they are belong to. Okay, now let's check it in the browser. You can see that we have image with the text here. That's cool. So for this div, we need to give a class name. The width is gonna be 17 rem. Shadow MD, shadow gray 400. Overflow is gonna be hidden. Rounded LG. Okay, now they are looking good. For this image, the width is gonna be full, height is gonna be 12 frame, and object is gonna be cover. Alright, now let's style this text here. We need to add a padding 3, text small, flex column, and gap 1. Okay, alright, now they are looking better. So down the text, we need to have two buttons here, one for delete and one for update. So for that, we need to open the React icons here. Okay. And at first, I'm going to look for trash icon here. We need to import that from React icons. Alright. And the second icon is going to be edit. I need to copy that and import that here again. Now down here, we need to have a div. And we need to have two buttons. I'm going to copy both icons from here and paste them inside the button. Okay. We have an error here. Okay. The problem is it's not a dot, but you need to add slash here. Okay. And you can see that we have two buttons down here with the icons. So we need to give it a class name, padding 3, flex, item center, justify end, and gap 2. Okay. Now let's style our buttons. So we need to give a class to the first one, text read 700. We need to give a hover effect and opacity 75. Okay. I'm going to copy this class name for the next button, and the next button will have a text of blue 600, and also the text is going to be extra large. Alright, you can see that it's looking good now. Okay guys, now after the text, we need to have a button to navigate to our form route. So I just come back here. Inside this context, we need to have a new div, and we need to have a button here. The text is going to be add contacts, so it will help us navigate to the form page. We need to give a class name here. The text is going to be right, margin right 10, and we need to give a style to this button. Button text small, padding x4. So we will give style to this button class in index.css because we are going to have multiple buttons. So I just write those styles under one class and call that button. Now I'm going to come to index.css. In here I'm going to target button. Again write at apply, bg orange 600, padding white 2, text white, rounded MD, and the hover effect is going to be opacity 75. Okay, now let's check. You can see that our button is ready here. Okay, now our main page is ready. Now let's implement the form page. So at first we need to make routes. So I just open main.jsx. Inside here I need to import browser router from React Router DOM. I just installed that in the beginning of the video. And we need to wrap this app with that browser router here. Okay. Now I need to open the app.jsx. I'm gonna delete this contacts from here, and we need to import two more things in here. The first one is gonna be routes. It's coming from React Router DOM. The second one is gonna be route, single route. Okay. Now inside here you need to write path. This is gonna be the path of our route. I'm gonna import that. Okay, the path is gonna be the slash means the home page, and the element is gonna be our contacts. So element will target the components. What components should this route render? Okay, now if I go back to the browser, you can see that our main page is in its plus. It means that we have displayed these contacts in the main page. Now inside this component, we need to have a new folder for add contact and a file add contact.jsx. Okay. Now I come back to the app.jsx. Inside here I need to copy this route, and import this new component here. And this time our path is gonna be /add. So using this path, we will have access to our form component. Okay. Now if I come back to the browser, and in here if I write /add, you can see that we have been directed to the add contact component. Okay. Now let's make the functionality to this button. So it should direct us to the form page. Okay. So I'm gonna open the contacts.jsx here, and down here we need to write const navigate is equal to use navigate. It's coming from React Router DOM. Okay. And we need to set an on click to this button, arrow function, and navigate. Okay. Inside this parenthesis, you can specify the direction of your route. So in this case, I'm gonna write /add. Now, if I come back here and click this add contact, you can see that I'm directed to the form page. And you can see this add contact text here. Okay. Now let's style this. So at first we need to change this div to be section, and inside here we will have a button, so it will direct us back to the main page. Okay. And down here we need to write a div, and we need to have a form here. Okay. We need to have input placeholder is gonna be full name. I need to copy that for multiple times, and the last one is gonna be for uploading our image. Okay. And finally we need to have a button here to submit our form. Alright, now you can see we have them all in the browser. I need to style this go back button here. Class name absolute top 2 rem, left 4 rem. Again that button style, padding X 5 and text small. Okay. Now our button is in the right place. For this div we need to write here flex item center justify center. Okay. Now to bring this all inputs in the middle, you need to write here height screen. It means that height is gonna be 100 view height. Okay. Now they are in the middle. For this form we need to give a border gray 400, width is gonna be 32 rem, padding 5, flex column gap 5. Okay. Rounded MD, shadow gray 400, margin 5. For the large screen, margin is gonna be 0. Now our form shape is ready. Okay. Now let's style our inputs. Okay, I'm gonna select all the inputs, and we need to give them a class name. The class name is gonna be input. Okay. Now open index.css. You need to target this input class. At apply, border gray 400, padding 3, outline noun, rounded MD, and finally text small. Okay. Now they are looking good. Actually for the last input we don't need this line here, so I'm gonna get rid of this class name for the last input. Okay. Now we need to style our button here. I just write this button class. Alright. Now our form is ready, but we need to have a title at the top of the form. So to make that, I just come back here, and inside this form I need to have a heading 1 and write add contact. Okay. Class name text center, text Excel, and font medium. Okay. Now our title is ready. Alright guys, the last thing that we need to do in this part is we need to make another function for this button here, so it should navigate us back to the main page. Okay. Now in here you need to copy this navigate here again from this component, Now I'm going to import that from React Router DOM. Again, inside this button, you need to set an onClick, but this time instead of route, you need to write -1. So if you write here -1, it will navigate you one step back. Okay. So now if I click this button, you can see it will bring us to the main page. If I click this add contact, we will be directed to the form page. And if I click this go back, we will be directed to the main page. Okay guys, that's it for this part. Now let's move to the next part.